with the McCourty Twins. We took a week off during Memorial Day, time to spend some time with the family and kind of reflect and relax. So happy to be back with you guys this evening. Welcome, D-Mac.
Yeah, man, it's a good time to be back. Before we get going and get into the thick of it, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, me and my family appreciate all of the kind words, whether it's been text messages, phone calls, social media posts, comments, people reaching out through DMs. We've gotten a lot of love this week, and it's been a tough week for us personally. But, you know, like I said in the post, man, we've seen a lot of love. We've seen God kind of through all of this, and it's been a trying time, but it's been awesome just to have the love from so many people, whether, you know, we're close, not close, is really stuck out. So we've been fighting through and moving on, and as tough as it is, it's been very inspiring, motivating to get love from so many different people, and especially since we posted to hear so many other people's stories very similar to ours, to know we're not alone was very strengthening, and has helped our family out a lot over the last couple of days.
No, definitely, man. I've had a lot of people reach out to me just in support of our family. So that's the one thing, man. There's a lot of people supporting and a lot of people there. So definitely appreciate it. And as we get into it, me and Dev just felt like with everything going on in the country that we wanted to spend some time this evening and just talk about it. You know, sports is obviously something that plays a huge role in our lives. But right now, sports doesn't seem like something that's very important. There's a lot of things going on in our country, obviously from a pandemic to everything that's going on with the racial issues that have gone on and have plagued our country for hundreds and hundreds of years. So we wanted to just open up our platform to be able to discuss some of these things and start off, Dev. Flo, obviously being your coach for several years as a head coach in the NFL, made a statement and just talked about some of the social injustices that he's witnessed and relationships he's lost over the years. How does that make you feel just as a former player of his, but also he's somebody that represents our entire league, for him to step out and say those words?
Yeah, man, and he holds a position that falls right into that category, a position that as players, as people who watch football, know we need more Black coaches. We need more Black GMs. We need more people in that position. So to see him be outspoken and knowing him personally, he's always been like that, to me was great to see. I think it's about leading men. It's about men seeing the important things. You know, we don't just come to play football. We're around each other. We mentor each other. We kind of pour into each other. So to see him to go out there and make it public and say how he felt, I thought was really good. And, you know, honestly, for both of us, it's been cool just to have other coaches reach out to you and try to talk about, you know, moving forward, how they can get involved, you know, with some of the work we've done in the past, just to see people's eyes open. I think it stinks that it had to be because of, you know, George Floyd's sacrifice, because he got murdered in cold blood, that people's eyes are really open now. But it's been like that the last couple, I mean, really, you know, obviously for hundreds of years, but, you know, in the NFL, the last couple of years, you've seen guys just be outspoken, guys been passionate, protesting. So to see some people's eyes open, you know, I think can hopefully lead us to kind of create that change and hopefully improve.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I think the athlete impact is huge. And that's one thing as I scroll through social media, people from Carson Wentz to Joe Burrow, guys stepping out and saying how they feeling, not only from athletes, but companies. You see Netflix, Nike, Adidas, Reebok, different people standing on what they believe in. And I think that's very important. Now, while we have this platform to use it for that, I can't say how many countless times I'm on social media and I see guys that I play with that maybe are out the league now, who while they were playing maybe didn't take advantage of that platform, and now you're trying to do so, and it's tougher. So I just think in this time, when you see other guys that are starting conversations or a podcast like this talking about these issues, I think it's huge. We have to take advantage of the platform we have when we have it. Once we're retired, you still can do it, but it's almost too late to demand the audience and the people that you have. And I think it starts with the conversation. And as you watch what's gone on over the last few days, and there's the rioting, the looting, it's a form of communication when you don't know how else to communicate. And when you asked the question, we were talking about it earlier today, like, are they good? Are they bad? It's been a back and forth dialogue in some of our group chats with some of our closest friends. And for me, I wouldn't find myself out rioting and looting. I think a peaceful protest is awesome. But at the same, I can't sit here in the comfort of my house and tell somebody who firmly believes that the rioting and the looting is going to change. I can't tell them wrong because I cannot direct in a manner, in a way that I would say, if you do A, B, and C, we're going to get the answer we want. I think everybody's just at a loss of solutions, and people are resulting into things that they've been taught over years and years of people repeating the same actions. I saw a very moving video on Twitter where a young man is 31 years old, and he's another man who's 14 in a year 16. And from generation to generation to generation, we've repeated the same thing, and the results are the same. And he sits there and he tells that 16-year-old kid, 10 years from now, you and your friends and the people that you've come close with that are passionate about this need to come up with a better way. We cannot keep repeating the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah, and I felt that tenfold, and I listened to Reverend Charlie Dates this evening, and, he talked about just a statement, I can't breathe. He talked about, multiple times in the Bible, obviously starting in Genesis, where God breathed life into Adam. And, he went from clay to an actual human being. And then after the resurrection, years later, a second wind had to come. The Holy Spirit had to come to again breathe that into you. So you talk about that. Man is not supposed to take breath away. And as you watch that video and you hear this man saying, I can't breathe. And now you look at what it is, and whether it's LA, Atlanta, you see all of this, like you said, the, kind of protest and peaceful protest, awesome. But you start to see the violence, whether it be from looting or whether it be from cops coming with, force and shooting people with pellets and different things like that. This week really had me just like thinking, and as we've been just grieving and going through what we're going through, I had to take a moment and really sit back and say, man, like, was God sending me a sign that, my little girl that was supposed to come in this world, her eyes and her body, she wasn't meant for this. She wasn't meant to have to go through this and see this. And as hard as that is to kind of take in and try to live with and deal with, as the days have gone on and I've watched what's happened, I'm like, man, maybe she just wasn't meant to be in this world, and God took her home early and she's in paradise now. She's looking down on us, keeping us together. And through all of this craziness, it just shows. And, Reverend Dates talked about it, like, it's not good enough to just be Christian or whatever you believe in and to think that, long as I worship and I read, but you have to live with other people. Like, that's what it's about. That's what it is, to live with others and to see them as equals, to understand that they were created the same way you were created. And the problem is, in our country, systems are built on false teachings of, whether it's Christianity or a bunch of other religions, have been false teaching that there's a powerful person that, they control it, they enslave other people, they do. So for years, our country's just been built on that. And now you see it, all these systems are in place for the Black race to fail, to always be underneath. So like you said, to see the rage from people, to see anger, to see just high emotions, sadness, heartbreak, it's just, that's what you expect, because you don't know what's next. So just to see those frustrations play out, you hope that you can post something to social media, talk to somebody that can be of some direction for them. But, it's hard to do that when you're lost and you have, you don't have words, you can't describe. So like you said, it's been tough to watch some of the violence go on. But 2020's kind of brought that in, and it's just been, what's next? What is going to really crush us next?
As we get going, what we decided to do tonight is, we have guys that we went to college with, we've graduated with, who have gone in all different avenues in life. We want to bring those guys on the show, and Dave Andrews would be at the end, our teammate as well. But some guys that are living just like all of us, and they're trying to figure out ways to cope and to deal with it. For everybody that's tuned in, make sure if you don't, you get the Fan Cred app. Once you get in, all you got to do is click the green button, get backstage, and you get a chance to get online and get face to face with me and Dev. If you guys have a comment, a question, anything you want to talk about, that'll be your chance to get on. But we got our friend Chris Quay backstage. We played football together at Rutgers. He now works in the financial world as an African-American male, and he's trying to build his way up the ranks, and just want to bring him in to talk about from a little bit of his perspective of just an everyday life. He's gone through a lot of the same things that other people are going through. What's up, Chris, man? Welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, fellas?
What's happening, man? We appreciate you taking the time. Set right now. We just want to talk about what it means to kind of be in that, what you see daily, and really just about your team.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been working for Morgan Stanley for about 5 years now. I actually started as a financial advisor and actually left Morgan Stanley and then ended up coming back in 2015 as a private banker. So I've been with Morgan Stanley as a private banker in my current role for about 5 years and just working my way up. I started as an associate private banker in New York, and back in 2017 was able to get promoted and move to Hartford, Connecticut, and I've been here since. Just trying to make a difference in my everyday world in our community, and just doing different things. Just trying to make it a difference in our world every single day.
For you go to work every day. How often do you see other individuals that look like you?
It's not often. In my immediate coverage area of Hartford, West Hartford, Connecticut, and the outskirts on the shoreline, I'm always the only African American male in the office, and it's something I'm aware of. And it's not something that I let bring me down in terms of discouragement, but it's something that I do have to be aware of and operate in a certain kind of way. As you kind of work your way up through the region, just in our New England region that goes all the way up to Maine and down to where I am in Connecticut, I'm still the only black banker in my coverage team. And then we think about the entire country and the team of bankers, there's probably about 15 to 20 bankers and managers out of 200 or even more that are African Americans. So I think there's a huge responsibility on our end to not only represent for our community, but to also do well enough to open doors for anybody else that looks like us that wants to also make a difference in the financial world as well. And I think that's part of the reason why I ended up joining our diversity council in the New England region, to try to educate people at an earlier age to have an interest in finances and want to learn more about it, just so that it sets them up more for the future. I think it's something where if you think about our community just as a whole, the resources that we have, we do have a lot of resources in our community that can make a difference. But when you compare it to other communities, you think about Asian communities, white communities, it doesn't matter. I think there's just so much more of a base of understanding that if you or yourselves, if you guys don't make it, I think it's detrimental to our community as a whole if you guys don't use your resources and try to give back. Whereas other communities are a lot more set up to where if one person doesn't make it, things will continue as is. And you kind of see the problems that are going on in the world today. I think it has a lot to do with that, in the sense that our community, we're just not really educated in a proper way financially to be able to build a base, to be able to sustain and be able to incorporate in Fortune 500 companies or major big banks like mine. So I think it's really important that we, on our end, really educate young adults and young kids to be able to make a difference in not just sports or entertainment, but also in the financial world, to keep a pipeline going for the future and set up our future as a community much better than what it currently is today.
That's interesting, because you speak about education, and we always talk about that, just how important education is. What are ways, whether you're a black banker or a white banker, you're a woman, you're like whatever it is, what are ways, because I keep getting that text message, people like, man, I work in insurance or I do this, how can I help? So what are ways that you think people can help, whether it's like I don't know, maybe mentoring or programs that are going? Like, how do you think personally people can help just overall, maybe not police brutality, but just help overall uplift the community that's just been oppressed for so long?
It kind of goes back to, I think a lot of things I've been hearing recently over the weekend is, I feel that just the color of our skin is, people are fearful of that. And I think that in itself is kind of goes back to how our community grows up. So you think about, just having a job or, having the right kind of job or home ownership or anything like that, young professionals where you can actually have conversations about it. I think for us, it's not something that's the norm. And I think just by having a conversation with a young kid about what else you can do besides being an athlete. And then for me, I always wanted to be a pro athlete. I look at you guys and, I kind of live vicariously through you. But at the same time, it doesn't stop me and what I do on a daily basis of being able to educate someone. And I think for me, it kind of goes both ways. And I can say, I did play with these guys in the trenches, but here's what else you can do if you don't make it. And I think just having more conversations about that with younger people and younger adults, I think we all have a responsibility to do that, especially the ones that haven't made it. So, as you had mentioned before, we have a bunch of friends that, we have police officers, we have, myself, I'm in finance, we have people in insurance. I think just having those conversations more often and doing mentorships, having opportunities with kids. I'm part of the Hartford Police Athletic League. We're able to, touch a lot of kids in their lives at an early age and just say, hey, here's what else you can do. And I think when that becomes the norm and we're not looked at as just for our talents as it relates to sports and entertainment, and we can do so much more, I think once that becomes the norm, I think we can have more of an impact. So I think those people that you have mentioned that are in other industries, I think it's on all of them, and myself included, to educate people on what else is out there besides, sports and entertainment. Because I think when we think about young kids, I think, growing up, that's what we look at. I think, that's the example that we see as far as people that look like us that are successful. We see sports or athletes and we see entertainers. That's what we see. I think we need to see more lawyers. We need to see more doctors. We need to see more, financial services professionals, more insurance agents. That's the way you build wealth in this country, is by leaving insurance and leaving a legacy to your kids. And no matter what way you do that, I think that's what needs to be more important as opposed to, just kind of materialistic things that I think our community, thinks about. So to me, it's a lot about the education, no matter what platform you have, giving back to those kids and helping them understand that there's more to life than just the materialistic things. There's a lot of things that we need to do that I think is our responsibility to leave to the next generation in terms of education to our kids.
No, I couldn't have said that better, man. Definitely appreciate you, Chris, man, coming on time out of your quarantine to come kick it with us. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring. I know you've been inspiring for Devin and myself. At some point, football is going to end, and you're somebody that shows us that, hey, there's life outside of entertainment and sports that we can go and create a path and figure it out. So, man, we appreciate you for coming on Double Coverage, my guy.
I'm going to get my wine and enjoy the rest of the show.
No, that's so true, man. Just understanding diversity, understanding that you have to push the limits everywhere. You just think about so many barriers that have been broken in our countries because people push barriers that they weren't supposed to touch. So I think people have to continue to do that. It's been interesting reading people just talking about learning how to respect each other and listen to each other. And when we have David Andrews come on, we'll talk about that, kind of how we operate as a locker room of being able to understand the differences and the similarities between each other, and how that kind of goes a long way.
That's the thing as well. Like, I was listening to Tony Evans, and it was just like, we can't expect to change our world if we're not willing to change our hearts. And that's where it starts with. We all can change our hearts. And like you just said, learn to love and respect one another. You don't got to like everybody, but love and respect everybody. That's a start. And for a reminder for you guys, if you want to get on to ask me and Dev a question, get that fan cred app. You can come on side by side with us and get a chance to make a comment, ask a question, or whatever the case may be. So that fan, the green, matter of fact, on the fan line before we bring our next guest on. So you guys, fan cred app, get in line and you'll be backstage. And we'll have you come be face to face. We got John coming up next on the fan line. So,
what's good?
John, what's up, man? How you doing?
Chilling, man. How's everything?
Doing
Good.
well. How you doing?
Good, man. I'm, hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. I like this platform that you guys got going on. The one thing that I wanted to say what's going on in the world is, it starts in our community. I think like we have to start changing the narrative amongst ourselves before we can start changing it, with the laws and all of that. Because I was talking to somebody and, God rest his, the situation with George Floyd, whose family, but there was another kid who just passed away in Nyack, Ryan Franklin, that pretty much it wasn't really up in arms. There was no protest going on. And I was talking to a young kid and I was like, within our community, we've become numb to blacks killing blacks. You understand what I'm saying? Like we become numb to that. We get up in arms when we see police officers killing us. But the same way that we get up in arms about police killing us, it should be the same when we're killing each other. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
You know what I mean?
No question. I definitely agree. And I always look at those two entities as two separate conversations. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, but at the same time, I don't feel like what happened with George Floyd doesn't belong on the back burner because we're still doing crime on each other. I feel like we need to address that, and we need to address both of them. I just think they're two separate things that, like you just said, whatever happens, like you said, it always starts at home, and home is our community. So we can change our community. We can change ourselves. The people right around us, we can continue to grow that and make a huge deal. So definitely agree with you there.
And I think that speaks of human life. Like we have to value life, like at all costs. Like we can't take other people's life, like black on black, a cop versus, like we can't do that. And I agree with you with that. We can't kill each other on Tuesday and then on Wednesday be up and on. Like it just can't. Like we have to value everyone's life. And for black people in our country, we very much need to value our lives because our lives are hunted. Our lives have been hunted for years. So if we don't do it, we can't always expect, to see other people do it. And like you said, J-Mac, we still got to protest and fight for that. But we got to protect ourselves and protect each other because we are all we got. And we've seen that. Yeah. So I definitely feel you on that.
Definitely. But, like I said, I like what you guys are doing. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing the envelope. And, we need more of it. Less hate and more love. And also also want to give you guys a shout out because I appreciate the donation that you gave to East Ramapo. The children really need it, man.
No doubt, man. Well, we appreciate you, man. You've been doing stuff for years, so appreciate you.
And make sure you tell Nate when all this clear up, we're gonna race. He's been dying to race me again, so we're gonna race and clear up.
All right, guys.
Appreciate you. And Matthew on the fan line comments was just like, but how can we change the system? And I think when you ask that question, we're not going to change a system overnight or over a year or two that's been in place for so many years. And I think as you start to talk about change, I think it was my mom actually earlier in the comments was like making sure you're going out voting, getting the right people in office that are progressive and that want to see those changes, whether it's just locally that can eventually work its way up. But I just think it's a long play strategy to try to get those things changed in the system. But we definitely have to attack legislation. Devin and myself, along with Duran and Matthew Slater, fought to get an education bill passed last year here in Massachusetts, and that's part of it. When you can attack legislation and get laws and get the system changed, that's going to bring the real impact. But we can't expect that to happen overnight. It's been hundreds of years in the process of being made the way it is. So
I want to make sure I get to it was a pretty good comment right here by Quentin on Facebook. That's a fantasy land to think like that. Whites kill whites and still have wealth and resources or they're not being hunted by police, I can't tell them that that's not a fair opinion. So, and that's what we want today, man. It's no sports, no anything. Just I want
right along.
What's name, and I'm not gonna be perfect with reading everything, but I want to just put things out there for people to see other people's opinion, because I think that's what we miss sometimes, is just listening to each other. So someone asks, how do everyday regular people help? I think, like you just said, Jay, exercising your right to vote, researching, knowing what it is that you want to see in your community, and then listening to other people in other communities, neighboring communities, communities maybe you wouldn't even want to go to or think to go to. Go see their plight, go see their life, their struggles, and try to be a voice for them as well, so they're not just the only ones talking. I know we got Tone in the back, so we can get him on.
Next guy, another former teammate at Rutgers, Antonio Lowery, now is a police officer in Miami. So we wanted to bring him on, get a little bit of his perspective. And Carrie on Facebook said, "This is amazing that you guys are doing this after this week. We appreciate you, Carrie." Antonio, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's up? We chilling.
Your choice. He came here with a plan. Hey, so you're a police officer in Miami, and like, I don't want to sit here and just make you the voice of all officers, because that's not what this is about tonight. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you just why you became a police officer. I don't think people always know people's whys. So just wanted to ask you that, why you became an officer.
First and foremost, appreciate this, man. Like you said, I'm not the voice of every officer, but I've been on for a year, and I'm gonna tell you what I know, what I feel, etc. Why I became a cop. To tell you the real truth is, Cops was my favorite show. I used to love that show. But believe it or not, my family, at that time I was raised in Little Haiti, they taught me police was bad, police was dangerous. So when I had the opportunity, when we got to Rutgers to study criminal justice, and I minored in Africana studies, I just thought that was a match made in heaven. Perfect opportunity to change the system, how I look at it. Being an officer, it means that you have a platform. You have you can create change, and that's what I do. Just a little bit before I became a police officer, I worked with people in drug and alcohol addiction. I worked with at-risk teens after college. So helping people was my thing. I had my own charity called Lowery Loves the Kids. That was my thing. I loved helping people. Just like y'all have this platform now, and it's amazing. And I appreciate it, and I love y'all for that. We all have a platform. Circle of people we can impact. For example, y'all football camp. It's not just athletes. Y'all have teachers, doctors, lawyers, police officers to show people, to give everyone that platform and show people it's different things. So that's why I became a police officer.
Man, I respect that so much. And I think there's so many people out there that grew up. I remember being a kid and the older kids saying, "Hey, when the police come around, don't tell them anything, because you'll end up getting in trouble." And like you just said, that mindset of what a police officer is, and you going out there willing to make change and do it the right way, I commend you for that. And with everything going on, does that change the way you go out there and police, or is it more of a mindset of like, hey, I got to continue to do things the right way, and by leading by example, I will affect change, because here I am, a Black officer, but I'm just going about my job and doing it the right way? Or do you have to change or be some type of hero?
People are angry right now. I'm angry. We angry. Recognizing everyone, like hyper awareness, being in anger, but that doesn't mean I have or try to I try to our crisis we're going through right now. So I'm not saying we go out there and kumbaya and everybody hold hands, which is a good thing. You have to listen to people. It's some bad people out there that doesn't understand the respect aspect of it. Like they don't understand that I'm feeling that same hurt they're feeling, but I still have to do my job. every day as a first responder, I'm taught to go into crisis. Situations are life or death. So you don't switch. They teach us how to recognize what's going on, your surrounding, but you have to still be you. And that's me. That's how I look at it. My life as an officer doesn't end when I take off the uniform. Like, I'm me 100% with the uniform, without the uniform. So when I put on that uniform and we're going through this situation, I'm gonna still treat people how I treat them, the same. So
I'm always, because I know you work. I know right now you probably doing a little bit of everything, but overall you working in a school, and you know, from a lot of research, there's a lot of areas where cops are in schools, it leads to arrest of Black and brown children, a systematic thing that leads to more kind of oppression of Black and brown kids. How have you viewed that job of being able to be officer? And, you know I've spoken to you numerous times, but you don't see it as kind of you kind of see it as a mentor. You're in a school, you get to know kids and mentor them. How have you enjoyed that, of kind of having that impact on young kids' lives?
You already know, like, and I feel like I work for one of the best departments because my chief understands that. He understands that we were kids we're kids too. When we were kids, we didn't have police officers in our schools arresting us for fighting, arresting us for this, arresting us for that. I love how he works and how he teaches the whole department how to work with these kids, understand these kids, what they're going through. To me, the uniform represents a symbol of leadership, role model, like you said, trust, respect. I love my job. I really do. I get to serve and create a change, a real change. Not just people say, "Oh, I get to lead. I get to," and that's where I'm going through right now of pulling is, can I do more? Yes, I could be a role model, and I do everything right. I want people to follow me, but what else? What else can I do? And that's what's hurting me right now.
I think that's big though, because there's a lot of people that are sitting at home with the same thought, like, what else? How special has it been for you to do your work right in the community in which you grew up in? How important is that just for a police officer? You're comfortable because you're around family in a sense. You're not related to everybody, but these are people that you knew. This is who you grew up with. How special is that to work right in the neighborhoods in the area you grew up in?
It's a blessing. When y'all know the whole story of like how much I tried and I tried and I tried and I got it and I finally got it, and it's everything that I wanted and more, because like we started off saying, I get to mentor kids, I get to help people, I get to do what I love where I grew up, and how some people see us or other people that look different. It's a blessing that I can change that narrative. I don't drive down the street assuming all minorities or people with hoods or whatever the case may be are criminals. Just like I don't want people to look at me like I'm a robot. I got a job to do, and I treat you with respect. But to one of my favorite officers is Tommy Norman out of Arkansas. I follow him on Instagram. I love what he says is like, the first step is just getting out the car. And when people see me on Instagram and stuff, I get out, play baseball, play football, play basketball, do this, do that, just talking to people. Sometimes people just want to talk. You don't have to be me. You don't have to do this. Now, if someone takes you there, that's a different story. But me being where I grew up at is, I'm going to do change. And I'm very grateful, and I love everything about it.
Man, well, we appreciate you, bro. Stay safe. It's crazy times. Continue to do what you're doing. Continue to inspire, man. And for both of us, we definitely appreciate what you're doing, bro.
I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all keep going, man. You already know after we got. All right.
Man, some good comments coming through Facebook and everything. The rioting is not okay. Arizona is in a state of emergency, 8 p.m. curfew because people are out of control. It's not okay. Someone else, the world is looking at us, and this is what we want to show them. So sad. The irony is more of the tax dollars will be needed to rebuild. It looks like a virus will spread amongst those rioting. Stay safe, guys. I can't say I disagree with you guys. I just don't know the answers. For me, I'm in the house and I'm under control. But I don't know how I would feel if I'm go on social media and I see Dev laid out in the street with a police officer's knee on his neck. So it's just as I sit here and I see how angry people are and they don't know how to express themselves, how we're sitting here during this conversation, we're saying, all right, how do we make change? How do we change this? How do we make sure this never happens again? Nobody can sit here tonight and say, this is how we do it and have a definitive answer. So I'm not saying that what people are doing in the streets they're correct, but I'm just saying unless we have the correct and the definitive answers to give them, I'm not going to shame them and call them this or call them that. But I do say we have to find a better way to communicate and to get our message across.
Agree, man. I just think, look at Kaepernick. A couple years ago, people were going crazy. This guy's this, he's that. Then the irony of a man losing his life because the officer's knee is in his neck. And now all of a sudden people are like, oh man, let me actually take an extra second to listen to what Kaepernick said in an interview about why he took a knee and why he did a silent protest. And when you listen to it, people are like, oh, that's kind of how I feel right now after watching that video. And it's like, yeah, I know, because if you ever stopped to listen to what he was doing and his true message, you would have never got to that point and you would have never talked about the military. You would have never talked about the flag. You would have understood he was talking about freedom. He was talking about a bunch of things that, whether you want to name Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, you could go throughout history. Madam C.J. Walker, all of these people wanted freedom for someone, whether it was women, Black people, like they wanted that. And that's what he was talking about. So, I think it's been very interesting to see just the reactions towards him and how people now all of a sudden think like, oh man, yeah, he is a good guy. Yeah, I know. He had a pretty good message from the beginning.
No question. Next, we have it's all college teammates until we get to the end, but another college teammate, Pat Brown. He's out in Florida now. He's coaching high school football. So he's a guy that through sports has an impact on the upcoming generations, and want to get a chance to talk to him from his perspective, obviously everything that's going on and how he can make an impact. Pat, what's up, man? Welcome to the show, bro.
Coach Brown.
What's going on, fellas? My guys.
Man, I just wanted to start off with, obviously, we just told the viewers you're a high school coach, you're in Florida. Just describe kind of what your team is made up of, as far as, Black students, white students, the social economics. Like, how have you kind of navigated that and still try to be, more than just a football coach, but, a leader of young boys, with your football team?
Yeah, for sure. My team is definitely a mixed bunch of group. Our school starting off is roughly 1,500 to 1,600 students, with 200 of those students being melanated. So that's about 12 to 13%. And when you look at our football team, we got about 50% players that look like us on the team, 50% to almost 2/3 going into this year. So that demographic is, almost 4 or 5 times that much as what is presented at the school in the sport of football, which, is heavily pushed in Florida. As far as the socioeconomic differences at the school, is very radical, where it's 2 totally different ends of the spectrum. Where we in the school that's technically still in Daytona Beach, but it's on the border of Ormond Beach, which is with a suburb, whereas Daytona is more of an urban setting. And you got millionaires, multi-generational millionaires, students that's going to the school, as well as you got certain kids that don't know where their meal is going to come at the next night, and family is living paycheck to paycheck trying to make ends meet. And you got all that at one school and on one team trying to get to a common goal. And I think that is great for us, getting my players on one accord and being able to experience that early on in life, where their parents may have never had a meaningful relationship with somebody that didn't look like them or didn't have the same beliefs or backgrounds as them. Whereas these kids is getting this early on, where it's like, listen, I might have never crossed paths with this person if I wasn't playing football. So now let's have meaningful conversations early on in the game about things outside of football.
Definitely. And that can go a long way from the football field to the classroom to just being out in the neighborhood. How do you go about giving your kids that freedom to express themselves? Like you just said, you have from two totally different demographics, and just giving those guys the ability to open platform to become friends and just be who they are.
Man, it's just like developing relationships like for relationships that we had growing up, you know, coming into school as, you know, considered young adults at 18 and developing these lifelong relationships, and also through our experience of playing, you know, high school, collegiately, Pop Warner, professionally, you know, and seeing different coaches' styles and seeing what resonated with us, what made us feel good, what made us develop a bond further as brothers when we played on the field. But even more than that, more importantly, in the locker room and you know, going to cookout, you know, we used to go to each other cookouts and stuff like that and meeting each other family members. So opening up that platform for my kids to say, okay, you know, what do you feel open about discussing? And everything's on the table, right? I don't want to feel like y'all in a dictatorship. Tell them, fella, this is your team. I'm a manager. Our coaching staff is a manager. This is your team. We're just guiding you as young men, right? Coaching, sending them coaching is being a mentor. So we're trying to guide y'all through life, right? And during that process, things are going to come about that's going to impact y'all on different levels. And if you need our guidance in that, we're here for that, and we're going to help guide y'all through that. But with y'all platform as being as young men and looked upon as leaders in the school and in y'all communities, naturally, hey, to much is given, much is earned, much is received. You have to be able to willing to step up to that. So with their platform, it's like, listen, you can do anything you want and speak anything you want, as long as you're respecting your teammates, all of your teammates, you know, the coaching staff, and your family, your community that you got to go back to at night.
How has it been, you know, in this kind of virtual world where you can't get the guys together and, you know, look them in their eyes and see how they're feeling with everything? Like, I'm sure you guys do stuff in the community, and, you know, that could be something that, you know, brings your team together and you could do stuff. But like, now that they're apart, like, how have you tried to help the kids cope with, you know, this past like week and a half, week going on with so much happening around them? How have you tried to help them, you know, understand what's happening?
It was just something small, like just sending my boys a text. It's mostly all the varsity kids, but just sending them a text late one night, just telling them, like, listen, you know, whatever y'all going through, if there's anything you need to talk about, or y'all in any type of situation where y'all feel uncomfortable, you know, text me, call me, I'll pull up to wherever you at if there's an uncomfortable situation. And, you know, some of the players, you know, I got some characters on the team, like, Coach, you all right? What's going on? I'm like, nah, I just want y'all to know that I love y'all. But if y'all ever feel in a situation that y'all feel like y'all can't get out of, or it's just an uncomfortable situation, that I'm willing to back y'all up in that situation, and, you know, without any judgment at that time, and we could talk about whatever later on. So it's tough because down here, you know, you be able to spend so much more time with your kids. And, you know, I'm spending more time with my players than they spending at home with their parents. And, you know, I respect the parents for trusting me and my coaching staff with their young men and developing during that time. And it's just big for me at this time to make sure that, you know, we still guide them during this time, still providing them with outlets. You know, we can't work them out right now. We can't do these type of things, but we have meetings talking about football, you know, still talk with them in the group chat. Or, you know, we just make some jokes or just touching base with them. How y'all doing? You know, some of my kids that might be struggling financially, shoot them individual texts like, you know, everything good at the house? You know, you got food? Some of my kids that I know might have some mental health issues that, you know, they struggle with some depression and stuff now and then, or struggle with confidence issues. Just touching base with them, just making sure we all on the same accord as far as things like that. So, you know, during this time, it just staying in touch, talking with them. You know, some of your kids that you got to talk to a little bit more. You know, some of your kids you got to push a little bit more. And understanding, like, listen, we're naturally social beings, and we're pushed away to be like, all right, this is for y'all safety to be antisocial at this time. So understanding the effects that, having on us as adults, we've been talking about in the group chat. So imagine teenagers that's going through, physical, chemical balance changes during this time. So trying to, navigate through that with them is definitely an experience. But some of the things that we would do, some of the players, a lot of them actually came from our feeder program. We got 2 feeder programs in the town. And during football season, obviously we out now, but they would go volunteer their times on Saturdays. And we had some things coming up in this spring that unfortunately got canceled, but we were trying to do some mentorship with the elementary school close by and like a community day. So hopefully, rolling out in the fall, we can get that started back up and get those things jumping.
Definitely. And obviously with a pandemic, then over the last couple of days with everything that's transpired, will that change football in general?
As far as my coaching style on the field, no, not at all. The biggest thing is how are we preparing them for off the field moving forward? And I think it's huge during these times where we can get that dialogue started. In football, for me, and for what I want my players to experience, like we talked about, you come in, you got so many people mixing together for a common goal, right? And you might not normally have those conversations with a kid at school. But now we're here, right? And you're seeing how certain people act, certain people interested, what they're listening to, right? And so some of the things that we try to do is, hey, you talk with a player that might not normally talk to, right? Take them under your wing if you're an older guy and a younger guy. Or if, you live on 2 different sides of town, right? Speak about, what some of the experience that you go through at night and what you're going through at night. So you understand, like, okay, or you could at least hear and start that conversation of, all right, well, why do you feel this way? And then, we'd be able to start that dialogue. So I think that's important with my kids. That's about it, I guess, with that situation. As far as moving forward, then I know y'all spoke about got brought up a few times about the community. And I think that's a big starting point with everything for us with the community, as far as being a young man in the community. I think to help start this transition, start this change, like we said, it's not going to be something that a cookie cutter or one decision is going to be able to change a system that's been used to exploit people for hundreds of years at this point, right? But there's certain changes that we can make. And it's starting off with the community. And I'll say number one is mentoring and guiding these young kids, giving them something positive to look forward to. Mm-hmm. The reason that a lot of our young kids are acting the way that they act is because they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, man, it's just the same thing over and over. Like, I can't make it out of here. I can't do this. I can't do that. Can't. But it's like, listen, it don't always got to be sports to get the kid out. You know what I mean? Like Chris Quay was speaking about earlier. We need more doctors, need more lawyers, judges, with 50 on, police officers. I'm a big proponent of, hey, we need police officers in our community that are from the community. Uh-huh. Not saying the whole force got to be like that, but before I don't think it was as many issues. And of course, there were still going to be issues in the police department. But when we had more people in the community from the police department that actually grew up there was a connection to say, okay, I know this person or that person that had mental health, right? I know this family because, we grew up here. Mm-hmm. So those are things that I think is big and imperative for us to get back to, is teaching these kids to understand, like, listen, you got different avenues to make it out besides sports, and let's support them in any way possible. And having multiple mentors in that department makes it realistic for them to see, okay, this is a cop and he's a mentor now, you know what I mean? Or this is an accountant and I'm really good with numbers. I never saw a black lawyer, and now I'm having a conversation with a black lawyer. So grabbing up those kids and really speaking life into them at that point. Other things as far as related to the community, as far as moving forward, I think we need to outside of the community, we need to keep on impacting the youth, speaking life into them. Hold on one second. And that's it, really focusing on focusing on the youth, focusing on the mentorship.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And it's been good. I saw someone jump in on Facebook and was like, that's the exact age we need to get to the kids in high school because they're starting to figure out, what they're going to be. So we commend you on what you do. I know you're passionate football, but I know anybody that knows you, your passion is just about life and about helping people further their life for their family in the future. So definitely appreciate you coming on with your thoughts and obviously the work you do down in Florida, man.
Yeah, good luck on the season, Coach.
I appreciate it, fellas. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Definitely.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And I think one thing Pat said, which was huge, was he talked about the young kids he's coaching. He talked about their mental health, and that's something that we don't always talk about. And I remember when we were growing up and you were in sports, there was no one talking about your mental health. If you gave up a play or something like that, coach was cursing you out, and that's just what it was. And if you were sad about it, then they told you to toughen up. And I think nowadays, a coach like himself and a lot of other coaches, you realize you have to pay attention to that. You have to get to know these kids and figure out how to develop them, not only as football players, but also as individuals. We'll get it. Let's let some of the fans that are backstage come on and maybe share some of their thoughts or questions. We have Eileen backstage right now coming up next on the fan line.
Say hi.
Hi.
Are you listening? You should be asleep.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
You doing?
Say the baby.
Me and Kari here. He was wearing his Patriots onesie and then he peed on it. So, first, I just wanted to say, Dev, my thoughts and prayers are with you and your family. I can imagine what you're going through right now, but sending all the love to you. I really appreciate you all having this platform and talk. I think it's really important, and the more that we can, the more things are going to change. And I know you kind of touched a little bit earlier on how a few years ago when Kaepernick was taking a knee and a lot of different people were taking a knee, there was a lot of controversy about that and just kind of misconceptions. And the NFL didn't really do anything one way or another. Most teams didn't say anything one way or another. It seems like right now people are really starting to speak up that hadn't spoken up before, and things are maybe changing, hopefully. What do you think the NFL's stance and impact should be, since they really have probably the biggest platform of anything here in America?
I think it's up to the players. I think the NFL is like every other business. They're going to do what's best for business. So, but I think what comes along with the NFL are the players. So I think as players, we have to continue to drive messages that we want out there. Cap taking a knee, or Malcolm Jenkins doing a whole interview where he didn't speak and he just held up signs with players doing work in the communities. So whether that's going back to silent protests or different protests this year, and more players doing it, I don't know what it looks like. But I think as we've seen over the years, it has to be up to the players. I don't think the players can rely on, the league office to make a decision to benefit these communities, because it's a business. They're going to do what's best for business. But I think players first locally and then overall nationally can make huge impacts just by standing up and doing what they feel is right.
Definitely agree there wholeheartedly.
What are you hoping that is? Is it going to be kneeling again, bringing that back?
I don't know. I think it's something that you can't really decide now. I think there's a lot that has to be seen from just the wake of all the things that's happened over the past week. These other 3 officers going to get charged and arrested? Is there going to be a conviction? I think a lot of things that happen, and I think players have already done a lot of groundwork with, trying to fight systems and that. I think we have to continue to do that. And then as things start to play out,
have discussions.
Yeah, there's a lot of innovative guys that in this league will come up with different ways. So I'm confident in the leadership and the guys we have in this league.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you all do.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks.
See ya. We got Julius coming up, who's backstage. But, yeah, you said it best, man. companies are going to make statements, they're going to do those things, but in the league, we have a platform in the NFL in itself, but then as individuals, we all have our individual platforms that collectively, when we combine them, we can make big statements.
What's up, fellas? What's good?
What's up, Jules?
Nothing, man. Just wanted to tap in with y'all. I know I've been talking to you throughout the week and stuff. I just want to send my condolences to you and stuff. I'm in the middle of a barbecue right now, but I stepped out to talk to you guys. I just wanted to, touch on what Tone said, what K-Boy said, and also what Pat said, because I'm also a high school football coach out here, and you guys train with a lot of my players and have interacted with a lot of my players. And I spoke to some of the local coaches out here just about really understanding what's going on. And because we can't train and do all the football side of things, we have to have our players understand what really is going on. And I have a lot of family that's cops and stuff like that, and I really respect what they do and the work that they do, their jobs that they have to do. But at the same time, they can't desensitize themselves to what's going on. It's a very hard situation for them. And us being Black young men who grew up in Rockland County, which is a very diverse area, we do a lot of times find ourselves placed in situations where I know myself may get pulled over and may come across an aggressive cop, but then I might come across a cop that's a completely good guy and like, oh, hey, you went to St. Joe's, or hey, you do this, you do that, and they'll let you go. What I'm trying to get my players right now to understand is when you get pulled over and you're in the wrong, or if you have any type of police interaction, you need to be able to realize that person has a job. They want to get home to their family as well, and they are coming forward to you hoping that you're going to abide by the common laws. And a lot of times, us or just an individual may be in the wrong, and because when you're in the wrong, you're very defensive. So a cop automatically senses that. A cop is trained to go about his procedure a certain way. And the moment that you give off any sense of nervousness or that you're doing something wrong, a cop's aggression and his alert is going to be a lot higher. And right now, I feel like we need to have a platform out here where, yes, the rallies, the protests are great, but I don't think our youth is really understanding what is really taking place and how to go about it. Like, I don't know if y'all seen the video I posted of my friend down in Atlanta. Like, my brother's down there, and one of my close friends, her store was like ransacked by people of color, like people that grew up like same way she grew up, and they like ransacked her store like nothing left. So being a young entrepreneur out here, like, what, that could have been my store, that could have been my business. And it's like, at what point do we feel like, is that going to bring justice by bringing harm to our own community?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the comments that we said earlier with the rioting. It sucks, and it's probably not the course of action. And I think as we all sit there, like you just said, the last thing you want to see is people rioting and looting their own communities. And I still think it's an outcry. It's people that are hurt. I'm talking to some of my friends in my group text. One of them that worked in corporate America, that graduated college, played 7 or 8 years in the league, owned his own business, then decided to go back to school for his master's. And he's in tears as he watches what's going on in our country. And there's times where we just, as human beings, have no idea how to express ourselves. Right. And I think that with your friend, what they're going through in Atlanta, that's terrible for that young lady in her business. And it's terrible for the people that are doing the looting because they don't know how else to communicate what they need to communicate. So we definitely appreciate you coming on, obviously, as a mentor and guidance of young men as well. Continue to just push the envelope, open up the dialogue, and have those conversations. We appreciate you, bro.
Definitely appreciate you guys. All right, take care. God bless.
Yes, sir.
I think young people need to realize that they can't just turn on clips. They got to learn from the older people around them. Like that video you spoke of, generations passing it down. Just can't watch one thing or two things and just go. And I think one of the things too, when you talk about, speaking just police brutality, one of the key things as I've been learning is like just police unions is trying to weaken the union a little, because I mean, you see some of these things like we just witnessed in Minnesota, and it took rioting, petitions, outrage for someone to get arrested. We've seen no arrest video. Usually when someone gets arrested in a high-profile crime like this, there's helicopters everywhere. See the person come out in cuffs. The other 3 guys haven't been. So, like, I think, but a lot of times in a lot of states and communities, that union has such a stronghold, whether it's on the district attorney's office, whether it's other places, that they control a lot of what's going on. And I've had conversations with, Malcolm Jenkins and different guys, Anquan Bolden, different guys in the Players Coalition, Doug, Kelvin Beach. Like, we've sat around and talked about these things of trying to figure out how we can help communities that deal with that. But I just wanted to make sure I put that. That's one thing to me, how you try to help. One of the issues being police brutality is you try to make sure the police unions are being fair to justice, not just protecting people at all costs, but always keeping justice first and foremost. So that's something we deal with in our league. We're all held accountable when we make mistakes.
Just wanted to say this comment from Silva on Facebook. Starts with education, how we are bringing up our kids, morals, values of life, empathy, not color, black, white, tan, or purple. I think obviously that first part is huge. How we're raising our kids, what we're instilling on the morals, the values that they have. But I just know I have 3 little ones, and I know for me it's going to be impossible to raise them up to not talk about color. I wish I could. For my real little ones, those conversations really haven't begun. My 3 and 4-year-old, we're not talking about color at all. They just see everybody. Daddy's brown some days, black some days, mommy's always yellow. They don't see color yet. But as they get older, I have to have those discussions. There's no way I can allow them to enter into a world where everybody else is going to see color, and for them to think that it's just going to be totally normal and everybody's going to treat them only by their character and who they are as people, because that's not the case. That's not the world we live in right now. And as much as I want it to be that way, and there's so many people that want it to be that way, I cannot send them out there and pretend that it already is. And we have to have those discussions with them and get them to understand that there may be further that they have to take the baton. There's a time where I'm going to have to pass that on to my young ones and hope that they continue to push the envelope, continue to have those conversations. And if things aren't the way they want it to be, when they look out the window, that they walk out the door and they try to start change somewhere. So hopefully we can still get that going. Right now we have Trisha, who's backstage and is coming up next on the fan line.
The Facebook, the comments is going so fast, I can't keep up.
How you doing?
Hi guys, I'm so sorry, Dev, but with the baby.
Appreciate it.
In a way, I kind of went through almost the same thing years ago.
Yeah.
Miscarriages before I had my 2 boys.
Wow. Well, yeah, we've heard a lot of stories like that, and it's helped us and inspire us to kind of keep.
The last one was a little girl, and I was going to name her Anisha.
Okay. Well, I'm
sorry.
But in order to have my boys, we ended up doing genetic testing, and I had to give myself shots for 10 months straight.
Shit.
Wow.
Just to have them. Now they're 14 and 16.
That's awesome.
So no, they're great when they want to listen, and
we know those struggles. Definitely appreciate those kind words.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure you guys knew. Now, if I would have wrapped my arms around Michelle when it happened,
Well,
even kids, whatever was needed.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Trisha. We appreciate that. Here, Tina on Facebook, my son's friend is almost 19, black and afraid to go outside. The boys had a graduation parade Friday, and I made him come with us. Police led the parade, but with the loud sirens, he was scared. It broke my heart. We need to understand the fear that, with the fear, and that it is real. Wow. Appreciate that. And that's why it's so hard to just look at these things and look at different occurrences and try to just put a title on it, put a name on it, put blame on it, because there's so many emotions and there's so many people that only have their lens to look through that you have no idea because you've never taken any steps in their shoes. So I think, like you just said, that young 19-year-old, I hope that he gets up the courage to realize that there's hope out there, whether it's inspiration from somebody next to him, somebody on TV, but just to realize that he can get up and things will get better. So I'm hoping and praying for that.
Exactly. And I think that's what it's all about. You know, it's hope. No matter what we go through, we can't lose hope on improvement, on a better future, I think, for our kids, because I think that's what it's all about. There's no reason for us to be here if we're not fighting for that. No matter if the situation was even better than what it is, you still be fighting to improve something. So to me, that's something we got to keep going. We can't let that slack or be discouraged or anything. We just got to continue to fight and hope. And I'm all about that.
Definitely. You got time? We can keep it going. Get a few more guests on before we take off. I feel like the dialogue is good. I want to keep it going. So you're quarantined. You ain't got nothing to do. We got our guy Marcus, who's back on this week. Get a quick hello to Marcus.
Hey, how are you guys? Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, Marcus had a bad connection this week. Was hearing all type of stuff, but definitely appreciate the comments and everything that everybody said. This affects everybody in so many different ways. So, like I said in the beginning, me and Dev just felt like this was a perfect time to open up the dialogue, to use our platform to be able to have these discussions.
Yeah, and Dave just texted me his microphone's not working. He probably needs to upgrade his MacBook. He sent me a picture. It's a MacBook Pro though, so he's still doing all right. That's a decent computer. But no, like you said, I think it's been great. And I really wanted to do, you know, even with Dave not being able to make it, I thought it was very important because I feel like a lot of people want to know what is a path, what can they do, how. And I think you saw people who do different things for a living jump in here and they do different things and they impact or try to impact in different ways. And I think that kind of goes across the board. Whatever it is you do for a living, there's things outside, around the corner, 2 blocks away, a town over, that you can get involved in and make a difference and have an impact. You just got to put yourself out there. You got to try to, you know, search a little bit for it. But I think whether it's mentoring, whether it's going out there and trying to explain to people the importance of voting, there's so many things out there that you can invest in your community and the surrounding communities that make a difference. You know, it's not going to end police brutality. It's not going to end the poor education system in some of the poverty-stricken areas throughout America. It's not going to end the wage gap for women and a wage gap for African Americans. But you can start to put in motion some things that will help other people's lives. And I think once you take the first step to do one thing, you will be empowered, you will be motivated and inspired to do it over and over again. So I would encourage people to be inspired by the couple individuals who came on here tonight that are finding ways to be impactful and try to do the same thing in your community, because it can create a real change and help other people out.
Yeah, definitely. And Matthew, again, we just need to pray and lean toward God to help our country. Obviously, me and Dev are men of faith, so we wholeheartedly believe in that. And it's where we go in time like this to try to find answers. And I got a text from Pat Brown, our coach from Florida, who was on earlier. As you guys saw, he was ruffling through those notes and all that. I think he got a little flustered, but he wanted me to let you guys know, as he talked about ways to make change and things to discuss. He just talked about in your community. He said, have a conversation with your neighbor, whether they look like you, whether they don't. Those conversations can start so small and seem so pointless, but can grow in and blossom into something beautiful. And I think those conversations are the dialogues that we need. You never know where a simple conversation going out to get your mail is going to take you. And then he also talked about what we talked about a little earlier is locally you can make change through politics. Your elected officials hold so much power and so much weight, and you have to hold them to a certain standard, and you have to push that. And that was something that Dev and myself believed in when it comes to education. And we felt like that was important, just a district attorney here and trying to make those changes. So those are the challenges that I would pose to all you guys as you sit there and you listen and you're in your homes and you're wondering and pondering, hey, what can we do? How can we make change? Have a dialogue and start it. And Joseph on Facebook, we can't expect the next generation to get better if they see us giving up and tearing each other apart. There you go. We have to find a way to love one another and build. And that's the legacy we're going to want to leave. So we have to figure this thing out, man.
And we got to all get through the process. That's, some of the things you see going on, it's a part of the process, and I believe that when tough times come, we've talked about it earlier, we got to grow from it. So I think everyone has to learn from it. And like Pat said, just talking to your neighbor today, put the kids in the stroller. We don't got much to go. We kind of live off a little bit of a main road, but there's heavy bike traffic right outside our house. So took the kids outside, went down a driveway, and we happened to see a cop driving by, stopped, got out the car, and we had a 10-minute conversation, just talking. Officer Rob, where I live, and we just chatted. We just was talking, talking about my experiences with my friends. Have a close friend who was an officer in Charlotte and actually was an officer during the riots and the looting and different things in Charlotte. I had a conversation with him 2 nights ago just about that. And he talked about when you're out there, you're just out there. You get an order and you go out there. And he talked about rocks being thrown at his head and you don't move. You stay there. You stay there until they tell you can move. So I just want to, like you said, I just want to say at the end of the day, how we started this, we're all people. We all humans. We all need to have some love and some empathy in our heart for each other. And I think most importantly, we gotta grow through this process, and we can't judge people because they're doing something that we don't believe in, whether that's out there protesting. You can't get mad at them and say, they shouldn't do that. They're bad people. Like, people are going to grieve and get through things however they feel needed. So, I just want to be an inspiration to people. It was an honor to do this tonight, to have people come in and do this. I texted Jay earlier this week. I just didn't think it was right to come in here and talk about, answer more questions about who's going to be quarterback, how's the team going to look without Tom. It just didn't feel right this week. So as always, want to make sure I leave you guys the right way. First and foremost, again, I started the show off like this. I want to end it like this as well. Again, thank you, everybody, for your support, all the well wishes, everyone who jumped on, said it, and, so many flowers, and people sent food and everything to our house. We appreciate that love and support. And, with everything that's been going on this past week, I just want to tell people to find something bigger than yourself to believe in. I've given messages because of my faith throughout the week. And I just want to tell you guys, if you don't get to know God, get to know him, I'm telling you right now, there's no way I'll be able to jump on this thing this week or be able to be a father and a husband to my wife and my kids this week without his strength and without his grace and mercy that's really led me throughout this weekend. It's been a week since everything happened, and I can truly say my family's blessed. We're going to be okay. And again, find something, find God, find him, believe in him, trust in him. And I know he will do what's good for you if you believe. So appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Can't wait to see you guys again next week, man. Mama, we made it.
Definitely appreciate you, Mac. Let them change your heart. Let them go to work. We'll see you guys next week. We appreciate you. Love you guys. Love each other. Be there for one another and just continue to uplift each other. See you guys next week.